Welcome to the dinner table. We are so excited to be joined by Marquette basketball legend, father of four, executive director of Be the Difference NIL, owner of the facility, and so much more, Travis Diener. Travis, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
So March Madness is finally here. We have the games on the TV behind us. How excited are you
My
guys?
bracket's already done. It's over. First game, Mississippi State getting smoked. I had them actually. I think I have them beat North Carolina in the next game too.
Ooh,
Mississippi State. Wow.
I don't know what. You just see something on like Sports Center. Guys like their point guards are the 3-point specialists. I'm like, okay, they're gonna make a long run. Watch them. They look terrible. Turned it over all over the place.
I didn't want to give anything to Michigan State. I felt like they had no right to be in this tournament. So I think I also picked Mississippi State, but I'm not sure.
Well, Cam probably filled out like 8 brackets, so he probably has like Mississippi State beating one, Michigan State. I actually did like Mississippi State as well for the reasons I think you stated. I didn't think Michigan State really was should have been validated to be in the tournament.
Yeah, could have included a little bit more Big East
But
teams.
now they'll probably end up making a deep round because that's how it always works in March.
Yeah.
Trev, who do you have winning it all?
Marquette.
Let's go.
Yes. I mean, obviously I'm very biased, as I think most of us are on this table. But, you know, to actually make the pick this year, there's a lot of credibility with it because I really, truly believe that they could make a deep run. Now, winning a national championship will be extremely tough, but they are definitely talented enough and experienced enough to do that. So it's not going out on a limb this year to have Marquette winning it all.
It's not my 5th grade self going Marquette to the championship every year. And your bracket's just done after the first round.
I know. And usually I'm like, Marquette. And this time I'm like, let's go. We're going all the way. Do you have a couple other Big East teams in that Final Four? I mean, I got Marquette playing Creighton to play UConn. I'm like, I'm like just including them all here.
You're really biased.
I'm really biased, but I'm also hopeful.
Yeah, you are really biased. No, I have actually Creighton losing early. Extremely talented, but a little soft for my liking. Hard to pick against UConn. I have UConn. Actually, I have Marquette beating UConn in the national championship game. I think it'd be very difficult for a team to beat another good team 4 times in a year. So I have Marquette beating UConn in the championship.
Yeah, you want to talk about the Marquette team a little bit this year and some things that you like about them, and we won't say anything that you don't like, but unless you want to.
No, I think the big question mark will be when they play a team that's extremely physical. A team like UConn has given them problems. Obviously, if you go back to last year in the tournament, Michigan State, the losses that they've had this year with Providence and even Wisconsin were a little more physical. But the last 2 months, I think Marquette's playing as good as anybody in the country, and that was, obviously without one of the best players in the country in Tyler. And so I think those other guys' roles have developed. They've grown confidence. So if Tyler can acclimate himself back into the team and what his job is now, I think, Marquette is poised to do a lot of damage.
How tough is that for Tyler? Obviously, he's been out now. I think he's missed 6 games, 3 weeks. Coming back and playing your first game in the NCAA tournament. I know you went through some injuries, but you never had anything going into a tournament, did you? Nothing with like that, but
no, it's he's probably been so anxious to get back, and I'm sure he felt like he could play last weekend, and obviously being very cautious because Marquette's really playing for right now, and they weren't really playing for. I mean, you're always playing for championships and stuff like that, but to make sure Tyler was 100% healthy. It'll take him time. It'll take some time, and hopefully this game tomorrow won't be too strenuous. But you never know. So, he's got he doesn't have to try to do too much. His best attributes should come natural, and that's getting everybody involved. He doesn't have to score to have a major impact in the game. So, I think him being back in the lineup will ease the burden on Cam a little bit. Cam's done a fabulous job running a totally different position while Tyler's been out, but maybe Cam even handling the ball a little more can give Tyler some rest. And so I think they're very positive vibes right now throughout the Marquette community.
I know. I mean, I was going to say, like, you talked about Cam Jones a little bit stepping up as Tyler's been out. And I think when you think about the March Madness, and obviously you've been in it, but it's all about that depth once you get there, right? You've been playing a long season. Those 5 guys, they can't really go all the time. So I think it's been beneficial, to be honest, to have Tyler out. I mean, you're talking Cam Jones, but you're also talking Zayd Lowry, who's come off the bench and had phenomenal minutes. Trey Norman has not played much at all, and now is stepping up. Like, he kind of felt like he was that typical freshman coming out there, and now he looks a little bit more solid and like on his feet a little bit more. And so I kind of think of it like as a positive
Absolutely.
thing.
I was going to say the same exact thing.
I mean, right?
Especially because Cam now has had to play a little bit of a different role. I mean, he's like been their main ball handler the last 6 games. And just as you mentioned, I think Zayd has looked fantastic.
Fantastic. And also, I mean, you're putting Tyler and Oso in every single 2-man game action, most likely, and just with their chemistry. And you're probably going to do that in the NCAA tournament. But Cam's chemistry with Oso has been phenomenal. Chase's chemistry with Oso, throwing up some lobs in the tournament. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if you have anything, honestly, more about that. But
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, going back to, over 20 years ago when we were in the Final Four, it wasn't just, 2-3 guys. Like, you're talking about the depth. Guys that came off the bench hit huge shots in games. That's going to have to happen, whether that's Zayd or Chase makes a couple huge threes, or you expect it from Tyler, Cam, Oso, because they're the best players in the team. They've garnered all these accolades, but you're going to need guys to step up and make big shots, whether that's Trey, Zayd, Ben Gold.
yeah.
So depth obviously is going to be important, and those guys might not see 20 minutes a game. They might only see 7-8 minutes, but those guys are going to have to make big shots if Marquette wants to make a deep run, because ultimately, some of those better players are going to have games where they're not as on, or they might struggle a little bit, and who's going to be there to pick them up, because that's vital for a team to try to make a deep run.
Yeah, the other guy, and I know you like him a lot, is Stevie too. I mean, hopefully he's healthy with the shoulder injury. You could tell it was really bothering him in that championship game in the Big East. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the pictures beforehand, but and that brace is thick, but it sounds like, and I just read a Ben Steele article today, it sounds like he's been getting better and feeling better. So, and Chase, I know he has like a calf contusion or something that he's been battling all year long. So a little banged up, and obviously no Sean Jones, but hopefully everybody's healthy enough to make a tournament run.
And it just seems like at this time of the year, not to harp on this, but everybody's banged up, right? Like every single team's got a calf contusion and a shoulder injury, but like how many teams can push through it and stay together no matter how banged up you are? So I think that's going to be the exciting part to see.
What do you guys think the odds are Marquette and Wisconsin meet in the Elite Eight?
I had it in my bracket, but I don't think the odds are great either. That was maybe more wishful thinking. I think that would be fun.
It'd be crazy.
It would be fun unless we lost.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic because 21 years ago we could have faced Wisconsin in the Elite Eight, but Kentucky beat Wisconsin the game before, and then we ended up playing Kentucky. I forget what seed Wisconsin was back then, but it's not out of the realm. I mean, Wisconsin's playing really good basketball right now, probably the best basketball they've played maybe all year.
Yeah.
They're playing good early. Played great against Marquette and then struggled a little bit. It's kind of the ebbs and flows of a season. It's a long season, as Chloe kind of alluded to. Even as a player, as a former player, I mean, Chloe and Cam can attest to it. It's long, and it's a grind, and guys get hurt. Not even hurt or physically, it's mentally. It's just it's a long season. So I think now once you get in the tournament, the excitement is so much bigger, and people the players are so excited to get out there and play. So it wouldn't be shocking to see Wisconsin win 2, 3, 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely good enough, and they're old enough and experienced enough to make a deep run, or they could lose in the first round, just like
James Madison too.
Yeah,
That's
very
gonna be a tough
dangerous,
opponent in
so.
that first one.
Seems like everyone thinks that.
I know.
About
it's
James Madison.
it's the 5-12 that everyone gets scared of, but.
People are scared of that.
But I also like if Wisconsin gets by that game. I don't really think Houston. I think they got to maybe play one more before they play
Duke.
Houston.
Probably Duke.
Duke or Vermont.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you play Duke and then Houston.
Talk
I
to
got
a
you.
Wisconsin fan here.
Yeah, exactly. She's all over it.
But I am going to Brooklyn to cover it, so I know that
that's right.
I'd have to stay Sunday.
Yeah.
So
and Duke has shown a little bit. I mean, I've watched them all year long. I think they're a little bit soft too. They're skilled, and obviously they have some great players. But Wisconsin, with them playing well right now, I think they can get by them. And then if they do end up running into Houston, like Houston's a team that thrives on speeding you up and forcing turnovers, and they're not going to do that to Wisconsin, I don't think. So that's where I had Wisconsin making a little bit of a run.
I know. I did give it to them as well. They're losing to Marquette in the Elite Eight in mine, but once again, biased me making the bracket. So
I have Wisconsin losing first round. Because I don't want to see them to win.
What do you think the toughest matchup would be for Marquette in this? If they were, let's just say they go on do it all.
I mean, even hopefully you can't ever look too far ahead. I mean, they could. I mean, tomorrow, who knows? You just never know. A team gets hot, a player gets hot, and we've seen it in the past. 15 seeds beat 2 seeds all the time. A 16 seed has beaten a 1 seed a couple times the last few years. But that second round matchup potentially against Florida, a team that's physical, team that can shoot threes, make threes. You get by them. It's Kentucky, who's not very good defensively, but has pros all over the place and great offensively. Or it could be, a team like Texas Tech, who's very physical. And then hopefully you keep advancing, and it could be Houston, who's maybe the most physical team in the country, or Wisconsin again, or Duke. And it just, you never know how this tournament's going to play out, and you can't even look ahead because so much crazy stuff happens where you think you might play this team and you end up playing a different team, and it's
playing James Madison in the Elite Eight all of a sudden.
I mean, you never know. I mean, last year I forget, I'm old, so the years go by. But what was it? San Diego State, FAU, and Miami in the Final Four. And if you go back and look at those seeds, I mean, they're all higher.
UConn was a high seed, right?
Yeah, UConn might have been they weren't.
They were like a 7 seed, I think.
I don't even remember, but they lost a lot of games last year. I know that.
Yeah. I know we've talked a lot about you, like, as a player in the March tournament, but as a coach, when we're talking about these upsets and you have to go back and film and figure out who the heck we're playing, and all of a sudden you're saying a 15 seed beats a 2 seed, like, how is that in the tournament or in the Big East tournament that you've dealt with, just trying to figure out how do I go to the next game and recruit film-wise? Yeah,
it's hard because I think as naturally as a coach or a player, as a human, you try to predict out who you're going to play, and it kind of seems easy. And then basketball or sports happens, and crazy stuff happens where in any given night a team can beat a different team. So you got to kind of have, as on a staff, you've probably experienced it, or Cam, like you go into a tournament and certain coaches have different scouts for each team, and then the scout is already pretty much made before the tournament, especially the Big East tournament, because you've played those teams twice already. So the scout's almost already done. It's just a matter of making adjustments from probably the previous games that you've played them. But the NCAA tournament, you almost have to scout. You almost have to have scouts ready for probably the 3 teams in that pool. Yeah. The team you're playing, Western Kentucky, and now for Marquette, it's going to be I'm sure they have the coach already that has a Florida scout done. I think Florida plays Colorado. Mm-hmm. I think there's probably a Colorado scout down. And there's probably already a scout down for Boise State who played Colorado last night. Yeah. But then, the good thing about the NCAA tournament is after you win those 2, you get a little break. Yeah. And so you get 3 or 4 days to prepare for the next, 3 teams that or the team you're going to play, and then the 2 teams you potentially could play. So it gives you enough time. It's not like the Big East tournament where it's back to back to back, or maybe like Maui where it's, you're playing, then you're staying up all night to scout, and then you're playing again. It kind of does that little rotation.
The coach for Colorado, they asked him after the game last night what his thoughts are on Florida, and he's like, I have no thoughts. I haven't even looked at them. Because the head coach normally doesn't look ahead. Right. He's much like the players, basically, where he's only focused on that game. But then you have assistants who are traveling around, like Trav mentioned. So
Right. All right. A couple other topics I want to get your opinion on is Tom Crane, came out with comments about the NIT tournament and teams declining bids. What do you think about that?
I mean, I agree with him.
Yeah.
I just think any opportunity to, and unfortunately I got the opportunity to play in the NIT my junior year. Senior year I got hurt, but like as a competitor, any opportunity to play more games, I know it doesn't mean anything really in the grand scheme of things. The NIT is the NIT, but it is an opportunity for you to play games, and for underclassmen, and for the way I think coach is looking at it is, it's an opportunity to build up for the future. So it's give maybe younger guys a chance to play meaningful basketball, not as meaningful as playing in the NCAA tournament, obviously, but it's still opportunities to get game-like experience for maybe freshman, sophomore to try to build a culture, especially if you're, maybe a new coach or you've only been there a year or two and you want to build a culture. It gives, obviously more practice time to get better, the game experience. So I totally get where he's coming from. I think the rules will probably change. I see where teams might decline because, the transfer portal's open now and it's crazy, and they probably have to push that back because it's just a little out of control with the portal, and I'm sure these coaches want to go out and recruit a little bit. But I'm always to the side of why not compete, why not play more games, and so I agreed with Coach, and he was very adamant about the way he felt, which I appreciate, and that's who he is. I mean, that's how Coach has been his whole life.
I love seeing that, actually, because you could tell like how fiery he would get as a head coach. I mean, I was never around him at that time, but like, I mean, I'm sure he got you guys pretty fired up in practice. I've heard stories and stuff like that. Like,
what was it like?
What was it like playing with him?
It was. You could see his personality there a little bit. It wasn't easy playing for him. I don't think, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was all rainbows the whole time, but he got the most out of us. And if you stuck around and you had some competitiveness to you and a drive to get better, it was worth it. But there were days where it was miserable. Yeah. He was demanding. He was tough, and I'm not. You can ask any player. I mean, Cam's been around my former teammates, and it's all the same. He knows he was hard. I mean, but it worked out.
That's sometimes the most rewarding stuff to me. I mean, when obviously it's not rewarding in the time when you're getting MF'd and he's all over.
You could get away with a lot more back then, as far as the way you could motivate or talk to somebody in a certain way. It wouldn't work that way, and he doesn't coach that way anymore. But he was, I mean, I think people forget how young he was. I think he was 33 when he took over the job here. So, and he's coming from Coach Izzo, and that was like Coach Izzo was running like football practices, So it was tough. It was demanding, but at the end it was very rewarding. We talked about the final. I mean, people come up and talked about the Final Four all the time.
Right.
Because it's really hard to do, especially at a place like, we have a great tradition here at Marquette, but we're not just going to Final Fours every 5 years.
Right.
So that's what makes this year so special is we have a really good opportunity to go back.
Do you see similarities between your team in 2003 to this team?
A little bit, I guess. I see similarities in Tyler and myself from a personnel standpoint. We were so big and almost like, but we had like, I think I went back and looked at some analytics, and I think we had like the number one rated offense in the country, which was shocking to me because we were really big, like plotting around. Like Rob Jackson was 6'9", physical. Scott Merritt was 6'10", Todd Townsend 6'7", Dwayne obviously 6'3", but wingspan of 7 foot.
Think about that lineup, actually.
Seriously.
And as a college player, I wasn't small. I mean, as an NBA player, probably small, but as a college player, 6'1". So we had a big lineup. And then we brought off the bench, Steve, who's 6'10", Terry Sanders, 6'8", Joe, 6'4", Chris Grimm, 6'10". So
big
big
team. Yeah.
So it's totally different basketball back then. So it's kind of hard to see the similarities, except for maybe the culture, the personalities, I think can be similar in certain players, but it's the style of play and the way we went about it is totally different than the way this year's team plays.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I kind of have like a little interesting. Obviously, you probably heard about what Shaq has said about the women's tournament compared to the men's tournament. Just kind of saying, I hate to say it, but the women's are kicking the men's butt. And you're a father of 3 girls. And so kind of like, what's this hype around the women's tournament? What's your thoughts about the comparison? And part of me kind of hates to compare the men's tournament to the women's just because it should all just be uplifted in a sense. But it's really cool to see. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I've watched more women's basketball probably in the last few years than I have my whole life.
Yeah.
And part of that is because I do have daughters and they do play basketball, and I want to be informed on what's going on the women's side of it. I think obviously the way Caitlin Clark plays basketball has been a huge lift for women's basketball because of how exciting she plays. She's almost, she's been compared to, the Steph Curry of the men's side. But you get these narratives or these storylines that are fun to follow, whether it's men or women. And I just think it's cool that, so many, I think, men's players, former NBA players are speaking up about women's basketball and just raises a platform and gives young women a chance to compete on a bigger stage. And I think it's important. I think it's, in coaching my daughters and watching more high school girls basketball, watching more college basketball, I think it's the game is played on the women's side the way it's meant to be played. Mm-hmm. It's not all about just athleticism.
Yep.
It's pass, move, cut, screen. It's team. It's cohesive. It's collective. So there's things about the women's side that I absolutely love. But then there's things on the men's side with the athleticism, with the exciting plays, the more exciting plays like dunking and all that is obviously just a very different. It's two ends of the spectrum, but if you bring them together, it's basketball at its finest.
Have Karina, Mila, I know Joya's young, but have they made any brackets this year for the women's side?
I don't think they have. I know Karina took a bracket to school today. I'm sure she's gonna. The women's though starts a day later. A day later.
Saturday.
So she's got some time.
She's got some time.
Karina went over to Madison this year to watch Caitlin Clark play.
That's awesome.
And loved it. She refused to wear red, even though
That's our girl.
Even though she was in a box that was with Wisconsin fans, and she was going to wear black and yellow in to support Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you can't wear this in here.
What are your girls like on the court? Like what kind of mentality?
Mila is a very competitive, has a very similar personality to the way I played.
Yeah?
Yes, Karina needs more of that. But Karina's very skilled. But they both have so much.
They love it?
I wouldn't say they love it yet.
Okay.
No, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
What's funny? I see these. So Mila and Karina live.
Really?
I'm probably too hard on them too. So.
Mila and Karina live in our gym. I see them all the time. We do all this stuff with HBC together. And what I think all the time when watching Travis and Karina is you and Dad.
Oh, yeah. The more Dad would talk to me, the more I hated it.
That's
probably coming. Like Karina's still young, but you can see that coming at some point. Like you used to throw the ball at Dad's face back in the day.
But then, if he didn't say anything to me, I'd be like, "Hey, do you have anything to say about the game?"
Yeah. That's Karina.
Yeah.
Because I've
both ways
gone
can't
at
win.
Karina. I'm like, all right, I'm just done. I'm done coaching. You just do what you want.
Yeah.
And then immediately after the game, so Dad, how'd you think I played?
Yeah.
That's funny. What is it here? What do you want?
What about Luca?
Cam sees Luca a lot. I've stayed away from Luca a little. I mean, he just turned 7, so he's so young. But he loves it.
Okay.
He loves the sport. He loves basketball. He loves football actually.
Okay.
But he's got great energy. He does all the whatever the celebrations. He's got it all down.
I mean, these kids
he's a character. I'm like, gosh, I mean, I would do some I'd throw 3 fingers up, but he's doing Dame time. He's
too little. He's too little.
He's 7 years old, the smallest guy out there.
He's doing the gritty. I'm like, it's funny when you're 7. Now when you're 15, you better be getting buckets if you're doing that.
It is so funny though, because all the camps that we've run, and I've worked with the men's camp a little bit with Luca, and as much as maybe you see it, the outside people, they are little Travis Dieners, just running around Marquette. It is amazing. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was just a group of them. It's 400 little boys that do the Marquette basketball camp. And someone, Joe, the runner, that guy that runs.
Joe Napier.
Joe Napier, shouts up and was like, "Everyone say hi to Travis." And Luca's hiding behind everyone oh my God. I'm like, it was so funny. So they're cute, but they're also going to be pretty good basketball players. You're a little humble about them.
Yeah. They got to work. You got to work. You got to work hard.
Those kids are the best.
I'll say this. At the dinner table,
Yeah.
well, Carly, Chloe, and McKenna have all babysat my kids.
Yes.
It's a family affair here.
Family
missed
affair.
that.
And our last guest, Noreen, too.
And Noreen, yeah. Cam has never babysat, but he has
Essentially.
trained them. Essentially babysitting. Yeah, that's essentially what it
That's
is.
true.
Yeah.
We always joke around because Cam, you guys will go play tennis, you'll play all these sports, and Cam will come home. We're like, how'd it go? He's like, Travis.
Yes.
He's like, Travis doesn't lose. Like, and I know you probably don't want me to admit that right now in front of him,
Yeah,
but
no, let's get this
he
on
said,
camera.
he said,
Except the golf. Golf, I'm coming around.
Cam,
Let's get the ledger out and see.
Cam, tell us about just what you see from Travis, because you're always like, he has
God,
this
this is gonna
mentality
kill
that's
me.
special.
I think anybody that knows about, I think the Diener family, the more I've gotten to actually know, we do this trip every year. We just did it, the golf trip, and I've gotten to know Dallas a little bit now, and his Uncle Jim, and I've gotten to know your parents and stuff. The whole Diener family is very competitive, and I don't know when it starts or whatever, but you can already see it in Karina and Mila and Luca, and it just, it's something that I'm sure you guys talk about a lot. Like, winning is important. It was talked about in our family too. Winning is important, and it doesn't mean whatever you're doing. And Travis and I will do it all. We'll play tennis, we'll play pickleball, we'll play golf every morning. Not every morning, but about 3 times a week. We play basketball in the morning with a fun group with Rob Jackson and Joe Chapman and a bunch of guys who've played before. And Trav is super competitive, and he hates to lose, and it shows in about everything he does, and yeah, that's.
Where does it come from, though? Like, where'd you get that from? Have you always been like that?
Yeah, I've always been like that. So I think that's a lot of that is the way I was just born with it. I don't know if it's a trait you actually can acquire. I think it's either in you or not. And not to say like other athletes aren't as competitive or more competitive, but I've always, the thought of my theory is if you're going to put so much effort in, I'm speaking about basketball. I don't put any time into tennis or pickleball, but I want to win.
You still beat Cam.
Yeah, I still beat Cam, but all the time. But like you spend your whole life, and Chloe can attest to this. Obviously a really good basketball player. Cam played basketball, but you spend your whole life doing something. Basketball for me, I started playing when I was 4 or 5 years old. Every single day, people would be shocked. Me and my cousin Drake, every single day, probably 360 days a year, picking up a basketball. So if you're going to spend all that time for something that you love, it should mean a lot. So it should mean a lot for you to win. If you lose, then like, why am I going out there and preparing and practicing and working that hard? So for me, it was, at times probably rubbed even a lot of my teammates the wrong way because of, and Camp can see that when we play basketball, like it's, I can be very demanding and hard. But I think, I'm that way on myself as well, and they can see that. So I just think if you're going to put a lot of effort and a lot of work into something, it should mean a lot, and, you should try to win. And if you don't win, you at least can look yourself in the mirror, look your teammates, eye to eye and say, well, we gave it all we had.
It probably helps to having like your cousins around who are also really good players and family and stuff.
No, I think, I guess Cam makes a good point. For me, it was, and to answer your question even better, Carly, I grew up playing against older cousins, so I always got my ass kicked because I was the youngest. I was really small growing up, so I was playing with my uncles who are obviously grown adults, my older cousins who were 3-4 years older than, and if we're playing 5-on-5, me and Drake were the 9th and 10th best players by far.
Interesting.
And we would always get, we'd get blamed for it all, even though we'd probably touch the ball once a game. We were guarding each other and we're just out there, but we'd get, the ball thrown at us. It was always our fault. But, I guess that helps develop a mindset of, okay, like, I got to get better. Drake, we have to get better. We don't want this feeling of, like, gosh, we're the worst players out here. And
what age are you playing in these games? And are you at the local Y or what?
Yeah, the YMCA. Yeah, with my uncles, we were probably anywhere from 10 to 14 years old.
And you got your uncles and then other grown men probably in these games, right?
It's like coming to the facility and
you got Mace or somebody in there.
Yeah, Mace who's 13, 14. He can see it, and he's the worst player, and he's probably getting blamed for stuff, and it's probably not as hardcore as a Diener family run, but it made us tougher for sure, physically, but more so mentally. Like, okay, we have to there's a certain standard. There's a way that we have to grow and develop to get better to play in these games. And ultimately it was incredibly beneficial because Drake and I both had, wonderful careers.
So I'm wondering, after you're done playing, how hard was it to give up the game? Just because it sounds like you were so passionate about it. And also, after that, how do you get into what you're doing now? If you can explain it too, just to those listening.
Yeah, I mean, not as hard, I guess, as you would think. I retired at 32, and I came back, and that's when I got on staff at Marquette and got the opportunity to coach Cam for, I think, 2 years with Cam. But I don't know if I was ever all in on that because I was still missing competing. So then I went back to Italy and played for 3 years. And, I kind of would have still continued to play, but the pandemic shut everything down. And then, came back here. And then the thought of going back there with 3 young kids, and then Joya was born. Yeah. It just didn't make sense. So the decision was kind of made for me, which maybe made it better. Like, I never had any regrets because, what was I going to do? I have kids, I have a family. I'm not going to put them through all that about keep moving back and forth. We have a young baby. So, and I don't miss it like that. I miss competing. Okay. I think I miss the games, but I think I can get enough of a fix of, whatever it is. And even in working at the facility, there's different ways you can compete against yourself and ways to get better. And I'm in a new area of my life where I'll never probably play a competitive basketball game again. And I'm okay with that. I've played a lot of games, and I've been very fortunate to have a long career and a relatively healthy career.
It's cool now that you're giving back, though, to those kids.
Yeah, it's fun. Everyone's, you're giving back. But for me, selfishly, it keeps me really young. Yeah. And it's to go in there and see whether it's a 10-year-old little girl that I'm working with or a group of little girls. And I do a lot on the girl side, selfishly, again, because I have girls. But I tend to think they listen better. But
true.
I was going to say.
Just to be involved, be in the gym and watch young kids try to accomplish, their dreams or just grow and develop and get better is fulfillment in itself. And not all of them are going to play Division I basketball or play in the NBA or play in the WNBA, but maybe their goal is to play. I just want to have a good high school experience. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell my kids, my own kids, like, we just want you to have a good high school experience, whatever that may be, if it's basketball, if it's a different sport, because that's how I grew up. I never thought about, anything after high school. My only goal was I wanted to play for my uncle in high school. I thought that was like the pinnacle of basketball. They were really good. We went to every game, and I just want whatever kid is in there, I think, their dreams or what they want out of basketball can be totally different than the next, but just trying to help facilitate that and just give them an opportunity to get better is fun in itself.
Yeah. And Trav has a really cool, every summer he runs his Travis Diener elite camps, and Chloe and I have coached and worked at it and stuff. But all the best, what is it, 7th and 8th grade it starts at? Earlier than that.
Yeah, 5th through high school.
Yeah. All the best players sessions, in the state. And it's really a high level fun camp, and it's Trav could probably have done something like that on the boys side. Obviously could have done something like that on the boys side, but to do it on the girls side here, especially when there's not really, when you were even going through high school, like, how many of that stuff in this Mequon area? There was nothing.
None.
Even in Milwaukee area, you probably had to travel. I know you played in Oshkosh, and you would go all across the country, but to have something like that in the Milwaukee area, where it's really a big deal, it's kudos to Trav and really great for the women's side.
Yeah, especially just with what you do with Be the Difference as well, and bringing in players like Jordan King, Liza Carlin, Kenzie Hare, who are coaching these girls too. I think that's very impactful. I know I've done that myself, but I could only imagine being either your daughters or the girls that are there looking up to these Marquette players or Wisconsin players that you've had. And that's what's really cool to me, because sometimes like you're saying, it's the give back but keeps you young type of mentality. Like, I picture myself at those camps all the time, like, oh my gosh, this is what I would have loved to do, like running around and playing against the best girls in the country in your hometown with Travis Diener running the camp. Like, that's awesome. So
yeah, no, it's to be honest, like, it's my name on the camp, but these girls don't know who I am or really what I've accomplished. Their parents maybe do, but that's why I get to bring in, the girls like yourself or Jordan or Liza or Kenzie. Even brought in a couple Badgers last year to participate in camp. But just so these young girls it's an invite-only camp, so it's the girls that are focused and driven and want to be there, want to get better, and want to have maybe a great high school experience, but might want to pursue basketball after high school, to see the level that it takes, to see the level of communication that college girls have. We try to, and I talk to Cam all the time about trying to make the camp better and better every year, but ultimately just trying to give these girls the best experience possible. And I think the greatest thing you can do with a camp is just surround yourself with good coaches, and I think I've done a pretty good job of that. So it makes the experience really fun for the young women.
A few more questions for you. We're going to talk about Roe because we need to. I look back at Marquette and people idolized you. I was telling them, I'm like, I remember people would show up in wedding dresses to the game.
Yeah, there's this one girl. She was really young. It was cute. She was I think 8 to 10 years old, but every home game like a wedding dress. Yeah.
Marry me.
Yeah, marry me.
Marry me, Travis sign. Yeah. So
Carly had a 34.
I was like, was that Carly?
There was this one girl who showed up.
Yeah, Carly's jealous of that one girl.
I distinctly remember.
Mom, where's my wedding dress?
Okay, well, I actually though was obsessed with Rosemary. Along with so many other people. She was she goes down as the coolest Marquette cheerleader ever. I'm just wondering, how'd you know that she was the one, and how'd you guys connect at Marquette? I want Ro to hear this too.
Yeah.
She well, I mean, obviously the first thing with any, I think, relationship is the physical attraction. Mm-hmm. So I would see her obviously on cheerleading, but for the first few years of her, when she was in college, she had a serious boyfriend, so there was really nothing there. And then I think the first time I actually really met her in person, I was eating at Angelo's Pizza with one of our walk-ons. And she knew the walk-on. I didn't know her, and she just came up and just started eating my pizza that I paid for. I never met her. And so that was that's the running joke, is that she knew what she was doing. She wanted me to know that, she was interested. Yeah. But no, after that, I got her number from the walk-on, and with my charm, lack thereof, one word like "Hey, what's up?" or something like that. There's nothing. No, I think I knew right away that within meeting her and being with her or being together and dating her, that she was the perfect person for me. Mm-hmm. She's totally different than me. We're complete opposites in a lot of ways, which works most of the time. But it is a she's Italian, so she's very fiery. Yeah. She's, you guys know, she's wonderful, and I don't know what more to say about her.
Angelo's Pizza.
Angelo's Pizza, yeah.
You guys have so much fun together. That's what
we do. No, we're very we're not afraid to show. I think to even people that might not know us, kind of who we are. We're not afraid of. I'm for sure not afraid of what people think of me, and so I'm. I'll talk to Ro in a way that maybe people are like, what? And she'll talk to me the same way, but it's all that's how we enjoy being around each other. There's a lot of friendly banter. There's, I think we like to have fun. I think she likes to host and be a part of just having fun.
There's a great Christmas party that we go to every year.
I'm more laid back and would sit in my house all day. She makes me get out, and I'll give her this credit. I'll give her credit for this. This is one thing she was incredible. I'm incredibly grateful for is when I went to Italy to play. Yeah. And I would have been like most Americans do. They go over there and they just sit in there. And Chloe spent a few months playing, and she knows how it is. But you got a lot of free time, and I would have spent, if I would have been there by myself or even with her, I would have just spent most of the days just in my apartment, doing whatever, playing a video game or just wasting time. And it was a very conscious effort of her to make us get out and do stuff, to explore, to see the culture. And it was Italy, so it was great for her, and she could speak the language. And so the 7 years in Italy for us were incredible, and that's a credit to her, because I would have never grown to appreciate exactly what that culture was, that country was, what the people were like. So but that's her. She wants to get out and do stuff, and she forces me to do it, and I might complain about it at first, but I'm more appreciative than she would probably ever realize.
I think it's kind of cool to hear some of these stories. For people obviously listening, I don't know how much you know, but like we talked about, like Travis, like you were always like our idol, right? Like we were the Marquette kids that we run around and we'd be like, that's Travis, and it's come full circle to the point where now we know you so well. You've trained me, we train your kids. Cam and you are great friends. Carly and I are good friends with Ro that we idolize as well. So I think it's cool to hear this because it reminds me of kind of like my dad and mom a little bit too, and I think that's really cool. My dad obviously played basketball at Marquette. Mom was a cheerleader, had 4 kids. You guys have 4 kids. They go to Lumen Christi. We went to Lumen Christi. And it's cool to see this full circle. So people that are listening that don't really know that, I think that's what's cool.
And Ro and Trav spent a lot of time with mom and dad. Obviously, when Trav was in college, Dad was the older alumni and always around the Marquette team, just as much as Trav's around the Marquette team now and whatnot. So, yeah.
And I feel like Dad would just crack up. And if I was like, Cam's best friend's Travis Diener, he'd be like, man, I got to cool him off a little bit. He's always liked him. So, yeah.
That's hilarious. All right, one last question before we go. What's your favorite memory looking back at your career, and why is it that TBT shot that you made?
That's it. So I was doing an interview the other day too, and it's a very similar question, or I don't know how they phrase it, but when you go through your whole career and there's so many, I think as a player, you just stick with moments. There's moments that you go back on like, God, that was a great moment. So for me, it was my high school experience, because I got to play for my uncle. I got to play with 3 of my cousins. So that moment in time was awesome because it was family, it was who I grew up with. Then I get to college and you have these moments where, the moment you go to the Final Four and you're tied together with a bunch of teammates, and 20 years go by and you're in the same room and nothing's ever changed. And you're in that moment and you're close friends. Then you go and, you get drafted in the NBA, and that night you're drafted and you hear your name called is maybe the most satisfying moment personally, individually, of my life. And then you go overseas and you do some incredible things with teams that have never seen the success, but it's totally different because now you're sharing it with, your wife, and then you're sharing, even then later on when I go back, you're sharing it with 2 of your kids who can see you play. But then what brings me to the TBT shot is because I was really old, which was good, but making the shot, having your kids see it, and because they never got to see me play. So to go through that moment where they're watching, because it was on TV, because we were in the bubble for the pandemic, but for them to see their dad play, it kind of just, there's all these moments, but that one sticks with me only because and you guys will find out when you have kids, you have a totally different perspective on everything, and everything else really doesn't mean as much. So when people talk to me about my career or the career I've had, it's really different now because ultimately what matters is what happens within the walls of my house with my kids. So it's just a totally different perspective. You guys are still in the age where, well, you obviously just recently got married, but and Cam's going to be getting married, but you're not as selfish anymore. You got to think about more than just yourself and your career. You're thinking about your husband, your spouse, your future wife, but then even more so when you have kids. It's like, okay, and that's really all that really matters.
Yeah.
Hopefully my kids get to watch me beat your ass on the golf course someday.
At some point you're gonna have to beat me in something.
That'd be Cam's most satisfying moment
Well,
of his career.
Trav's he's due for some old age coming his way, and I'm hoping my 30s to his I could sneak up back on him, just dominate a decade.
You know me. I won't be playing.
Travis,
Once it goes south, I'll be like, I'm done.
All right, Trav, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.